My fiancé said, "Open relationship or weddings off." I calmly agreed, then took 3 dates with her friends. When she saw my openness wasn't just for her, she begged to close it. But the invitations were already cancelled. I'm Evan, 31M. 2 months ago, on a Tuesday night lined with place cards and cake samples, my fiancée Nora, 29F, slid a new word into our meticulously planned life like a razor under a ribbon. Open, she said. Open relationship or the wedding's off. We were at our dining table, which at this point was a wedding factory line. Sample menus, a mason jar of swatches, a spreadsheet of guest RSVPs that made me dizzy. We were 6 weeks out. Deposits were paid. Invitations, cream cardstock with linen texture, were at the printer. I stared at her and tried not to stare at the message behind the message. I have a bad habit of fixing problems the second they appear, like a guy who keeps spare tires in his backpack. But this wasn't a flat tire. This was the whole car veering off a cliff. Where is this coming from? I asked. Nora exhaled a dissertation. She'd been reading new relationship books. Modern love. Monogamy is a construct. Her friend group, the Gallery Girls, an art school cluster that had somehow all stayed friends, had been talking about ethical non-monogamy. And tiny footnote, her ex Leo was non-monog. Ultimatums are funny. They sound like choices, but they're actually instructions. I don't like being instructed. And I don't like losing by default. I'm not agreeing tonight, I said slowly. But if we're even discussing it, we need ground rules. Her eyes brightened like she'd already won. Like boundaries, she said. Like equality, I replied. If it's open both ways. Nora nodded too fast. Of course. Ground rules. Over the next 48 hours, I drafted something that read like a peace treaty and a safety manual had a baby. Testing before physical intimacy, honesty about dates, no lying by omission, no sleepovers in our apartment, and, this was important, no veto power over the other person's date choices just because feelings were inconvenient. If you want monogamy, pick monogamy. If you want open, pick adult behavior. Nora agreed with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and one request. No one from our friend circle, she said casually, or my work. I looked up. So, Leo is okay. Because he's not your friend anymore, and he's not work. Technically, she said. But come on, Evan. Me dating your buddies would be weird. It would, I said. So it should be weird if I'm the only one who can't. She rolled the pen between her fingers. Fine. No close friends for either of us. We both signed. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even hopeful. It was math. How it started. Nora had a date 3 nights later. She called it a catch-up with an old friend, but she left in the leather jacket she saves for events that make her feel like the main character. I ordered dumplings, watched a documentary, and tried to act breezy when she came back at 1:14 a.m. with a glowy face and a new perfume cloud I'd never smelled before. It was good, she said, too bright. We talked about art and ethics and how adults don't own each other. Cool, I said. Use protection. She scoffed. We just talked. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I slept like a man on a trampoline. The dates I took. I didn't install 8 dating apps. I didn't DM randoms. What I did on purpose was text 3 women who had been kind to me for years and who, this is key, are not Norris's closest circle, but orbit adjacent. Talia, a florist who'd promised to help with boutonnieres. Priya, a UX designer who met us through trivia nights. And Eden, a photographer Nora follows but doesn't hang with one-on-one. We'd shared group dinners. Ideas. Inside jokes. I respected all of them. I also trusted them to tell me the truth. My text was the same to each. Nora just asked for an open relationship. We wrote rules. I'm trying not to be insane. Would you be up for coffee? As a date, technically, so I'm not sitting here stewing while she explores. Talia's reply was instant. You okay? Coffee, yes. Also, this is not how I pictured wedding season. Priya sent a cautious heart. Coffee works. Boundaries talk first. Eden, who spells it with 2 E's because she's charmingly chaotic, Sent a photo of a coffee cup that said, "Emotional support latte." I'm in. But also, why is she doing this now? Date 1. Talia. Talia met me at a greenhouse cafe that smelled like basil and rain. She wore a sundress and zero artifice. "I'm not here to be messy," she said before we Saturday, "but I need to tell you something." Turns out, in the group chat Nora shares with the gallery girls, polybombing me had been an actual topic. How to introduce ethical non-monogamy after the venue was paid, minimizing my chance of leaving. Talia had left the chat 2 weeks earlier, uneasy with the tone. I gripped the table edge. "Do you have screenshots?" I asked, feeling like the villain in a soap opera. "I didn't save them," she said. "But Eden might. We talked for 2 hours, about love, and how modern frames can excuse old selfishness if you squint. The bill came. I insisted to pay. At the door, she touched my arm, purely friendly. "You look tired," she said. "Eat protein. Don't make big decisions after midnight." I walked home slowly, planning protein and war. Date 2, Priya. Priya insists on clarity the way pilots insist on checklists. Before I could order, she said, "I'm not sleeping with you while you're engaged. I like Nora, I like you, and I like my peace. But I will listen." I listened too. Priya had watched Nora flirt with Leo at a gallery opening the month we booked the venue. "It wasn't betrayal, Priya said carefully. But it was rehearsal. Like she was seeing if the fire was still warm. I paid again. We walked past a stationery store where our invitations were being printed. The window display had embossed paper with gold filigree that looked exactly like ours. "Do you think marriage is dead?" I asked as we paused. "No," she said. "I think courage is expensive." Date 3, Eden. Eden brought the receipts. We met at a noodle place. She pulled out her phone. The chat scrolled, Nora, writing about wanting to experience life fully before locking it down, about how I was sweet but rigid, about how Leo knew her body like a second language. I counted 6 messages where someone literally wrote, "Open it now. It'll be too late otherwise." "Can I?" I asked. She forwarded me the screenshots. "I left the chat," she said softly. It stopped feeling like ethics and started feeling like strategy. In the photo reflection on Eden's screen, I could see my face. Not shocked exactly. Just older. We didn't touch. We did laugh once, absurdly, when the waiter brought us double chili oil, as if the universe wanted to keep the heat high. At the end, Eden said, "Whatever you decide, don't perform forgiveness just to keep the timeline. That's theater. You deserve more than a show." The postponement email. The next morning, I called the venue. Hypothetically, I asked, if a wedding is postponed, the coordinator, a woman with a voice like foam, explained the policy. Deposits are non-refundable, dates can move once with a fee, and invitations, if already printed, can't be unprinted. "Good news," she chirped. "Your invitations haven't been cut yet." I stared at the window, where sunlight made my houseplant look braver than I felt. "Hold the presses," I said. "We're postponing." I hung up and wrote an email to our guests. Due to personal reasons, we're postponing the wedding to a later date. We'll share updates when we have them. Thank you for understanding. I sent it from a joint account Nora and I had made for wedding logistics. I CC'd Nora with a one-line note. "We need to talk." The replies started in minutes. Kind, confused, and a handful that implied drama with a side of popcorn. Nora didn't reply. She called. "What did you do?" Her voice was a violin string tuned too tight. "I paused a train that was driving over us," I said. "We need to talk about your group chat, Leo, and what Open was going to accomplish besides your curiosity." "You had no right." "I have every right to not walk into a ceremony in a state of hostage calm." She hung up. When she texted again, it was 3 words. "Come home now." War room. When I got home, Nora had staged the living room like a tribunal. Her sister Grace. Her mom, Lorraine. 2 bridesmaids who had stayed in the chat. I should have called a lawyer. I poured water instead. Lorraine went first. "We are disappointed," she said, as if I had spilled soup on a silk blouse. A postponement affects hundreds of people. Vendors. Family. An open relationship affects too, I said. Deeply. Nora folded her arms. She looked like the version of herself who negotiates discounts with rental car clerks. You're catastrophizing, she said. Open isn't a big deal. We agreed to rules. You can date too. I did, I said. 3 times. Silence. Grace blinked. The bridesmaids tilted. With who? Nora asked, voice paper thin. Talia. Priya. Eden. I said their names gently, like I'd just set down Fragile cups. You dated my friends. Your orbit. The rule was no close friends. They're adults. Also, Talia and Eden left your chat because they didn't like the way you were strategizing this. I set my phone on the table, screen lit with screenshots. They weren't pawns. They were mirrors. Lorraine sucked air. This is cruelty, she hissed. Humiliating our daughter with her own friends. I looked at Nora. Open was only okay when it benefited you. The second it mapped onto my life, it became betrayal. Nora didn't look at the phone. She looked at me like I'd broken a vase she never let me touch. How could you? She whispered. How could I? I repeated. How could you drop Open 6 weeks before the wedding, after months of planning, while workshopping my reaction in a chat like I was a puzzle to solve? If this was about your values, you'd have said it a year ago. If it was about us, you'd have said it to me before Leo. Grace shifted, maybe to say something. Lorraine placed a hand on Nora's shoulder like she was warding me off. The room felt suddenly small, the air portioned. I realized I could stay and debate semantics until dawn, or I could do the one brave thing I hadn't yet done. I'm calling the venue to cancel entirely, I said. Not postpone. Cancel. Nora jolted like I'd slapped her. No, she said instantly, the word a child's. Evan, don't be dramatic. We can put this away. Close it. I'll text Leo. I'll block him. We can go back. Back. To the trajectory where she tried what she wanted to try, with my consent or without it, and we'd pretend it never happened because a dress had been hemmed. No, I said, and felt a quiet relief bloom under my ribs. We don't close wounds by hiding them under lace. Update 1. The invitations. We cancelled. Deposits forfeited. The printer happily halted the run. The coordinator sighed and sent a PDF titled, Termination of Services. The cost stung, but my lungs worked again. I moved out of our shared apartment for a week, to my friend Cal's spare room where the pillows smelled like detergent and safety. Nora texted exactly thrice. We should talk in person. I'm sorry for the timing. Please don't tell people about Leo. I didn't reply. I didn't need to punish her. Consequences can arrive without my help. My phone filled with opinions. Half of them, versions of love is flexible. The other half, ultimatums aren't flexibility, they're traps. I muted most threads. 2 nights in, Eden called. I feel gross, she said. We talked as friends, but I know it hurts more because of who I am to her. You told the truth, I said. Truth hurts. Silence kills. Update 2. Family fallout. Lorraine posted a paragraph on Facebook about people folding under pressure and rescheduling due to stress. My mother texted me a screenshot with the caption, "Do you want me to say something?" I told her no. She baked a lasagna anyway, her version of artillery. Nora's sister Grace sent a longer text, all sharp edges pretending to be soft. You embarrassed Nora with your dates. You could have just said no to Open. I did say no, I typed, by canceling the wedding. Grace. You didn't have to blow up her relationships too. Me. I didn't blow anything up. I held up a mirror. The cracks were already there. I didn't press send for a full minute. Then I did. The read receipts came and sat there, unblinking. Update 3, the ring. It felt transactional to even think about, but the ring existed in the world like a punctuation mark. In our state, engagement rings are conditional gifts. If no marriage, ring returns. I asked gently via email so there'd be no screaming match. When you're ready, I'll pick up the ring. I'll cover the appraisal and cleaning. No rush. She responded within 3 minutes. It's on the mantel. Pick it up when you want. I went midday when I knew she'd be at work. The apartment was cleaner than I'd ever seen it, like she'd tried to tidy the bruise. I stood in the doorway a long time before walking to the mantel. The ring sat in a small dish like a tiny ship at rest. I put it in the velvet box. Before I left, I replaced the photograph of us from the frame with a page I'd torn from a notebook. On it, I wrote one sentence. We both deserve relationships that don't require ultimatums to feel alive. Update 4, The Explainer. I learned that when you cancel a wedding, people want a story more than they want the truth. The bridesmaids who'd stayed in Nora's chat crafted a version where I weaponized openness to hurt her. Cal told me to write my own version before theirs became canon. So I wrote to the people who mattered, family, for mutual friends I actually trust, and said this. We planned a wedding. 6 weeks out, Nora asked for an open relationship. I considered it with fair rules. She pursued her ex. I went on 3 dates, respectful, non-physical, with women who know us. In that process, I saw messages where my feelings were gamified. I canceled the wedding because I refused to bind my life to someone who makes life-altering decisions by committee and ultimatum. I wish Nora healing. Please don't pick sides. Pick kindness. It wasn't satisfying in the way revenge is satisfying. But it made room for me to be the kind of man who sleeps at night. Final update. Openness and closure. 2 weeks later, Nora asked to meet at the park where we'd had our first winter picnic. She brought coffee. She also brought the face I fell in love with. The one that's good at earnestness when she remembers how. I panicked, she said. I'd been thinking about open for months and I was scared I'd wake up married and feel caged and blame you. The girls, they made it sound logical. Like I wouldn't be the villain if I framed it as growth. I swallowed. It's hard to be the villain of our own story. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. I thought because you're good, you'd be safe. Even if I needed to explore. That's the thing, I said. You thought my goodness was elastic. That I'd stretch around whatever you needed. That's not goodness. That's erasure. She stared out at the water for a long time. Do you think we could ever try again? Closed. Therapy. Real apologies. We could rebook for next summer. The breeze moved, a small permission to breathe. You're asking me to pretend the last month didn't happen, I said. To pretend open was an idea, not a weapon. It wasn't a weapon, she said softly. It was a mistake. Maybe, I said. But it was a mistake designed to make me accept less while you tried more. That's not a starting point. That's a warning. She nodded like she knew. Because she did. We walked to the parking lot in careful silence. 2 people who had almost built a lifeboat and instead learned to swim. That night, I unboxed the ring and took a photo for the jeweler. I sent the picture to my dad, who texted back, proud of you. Love isn't smaller because you said no. I slept well for the first time in 3 weeks. Epilogue. The 3 dates. People ask, because people always do. What happened with Talia, Priya, and Eden? Here's the truth. Talia delivered flowers to my office the week after the cancellation. A bunch of anemones that looked like little starbursts. The card said, for courage you didn't know you had. We got lunch once, purely friends. She's seeing someone now who texts her when he gets home safe and remembers her favorite curve of the city skyline. I'm rooting for them. Priya sent me a Google Doc titled Boundaries for Future Evan, which was both hilarious and exactly what I needed. It had bullet points like, if someone uses the word evolve as a cover for selfishness, flag it. She's my trivia partner now. We're insufferable. We win a lot and pretend to be humble. Eden and I took a walk one evening along the river. She took photos of the sunset and I took photos of her taking photos because I'm a cliché. She squeezed my hand at a crosswalk the way someone does when they're glad you didn't die in your own house. That's all. That's enough. As for Nora, she deleted her Facebook for a while and then came back with a photo of a ceramic mug she made at a pottery class. The caption said, Making New Shapes. I hope she does. I hope I do, too. Here's what I know now. An open relationship can be beautiful when it's born from abundance and consent. When it's born from a timer, a group chat, and a dress fitting, it's just a soft lie with sequins. I deserve more than a soft lie. So do you.